right, welcome to a live episode of the Two and Under podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's only dedicated Newcastle United podcast. We're here to talk about the victory over Norwich, which was at midnight Australia time, which was a nice one. It's a nice, comfortable win for a change overnight, so we could actually get a little bit of sleep not too long after the final whistle. I've got Craig and Kent. How you doing, Craig?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yourself?
I'm very good. Bobby, welcome back. You've had a few weeks off. How you doing?
Good, Jack. Good. It's great to be back and see you guys and be part of the pod again.
It's nice to have your face back. We've missed you, Bobby.
We have indeed, mate.
And welcome to the people who are watching as well. This is the first time I've done a live one, so we'll go with it, see how it goes. I've watched the ones that the other lads have done, and they've been pretty entertaining. So for people who are watching, just feel free to comment, question, and we'll get to them at some point through the pod. So, Eddie Howe, what a man. My shirt says it all again, doesn't it? I can't take this thing off. Eddie Howe, since he came in October, Newcastle have played 23 games. We've won 11, drawn 5 and lost 7. We've got 38 points total now under Eddie Howe. And that's at a rate of 1.6 points per game. That would actually be enough for 62 points over the course of a full season, which usually that'll get you kind of 6th or 7th, I think, maybe even a bit higher. Sometimes it's definitely pushing Europe. We've got 10 wins from the last 14 games. We've got 4 wins in a row. We'd be 5th in the table if the table started when Eddie Howe came in. I saw that on Match of the Day last night. I was watching a bit of Match of the Day. Alan Shearer and Ian Wright. 5th in the table if it started now. It's just amazing. And last time after the Leicester game, I read through a load of stats about things that we'd done. So this is the first time we've beaten Norwich away in the Premier League since 93, 94. I know that we haven't always been in the Premier League at the same time, but that's crazy. It's the first time we've scored more than 2 goals at Carrow Rd in the Premier League. And the first clean sheet we've had there since 2013, 2014. This is only the 3rd time this season we've won a game by more than 1 goal. So it was nice and comfortable. I remember I was in the group chat texting you lads with 10 minutes to go saying, we really need to enjoy and savor this because we're not going to screw this up now. Bobby, how do those stats and how does that information there, how does that make you feel?
It makes you feel good. It's bewildering, to be honest. It's just... it sort of blows your mind when you sit back and take it in or you read them, or you go through the stats. Twitter's a great place after a win and you sort of see all these stats pop up from different people and you got to fact check half of them because that can't be right, but it is. And, I think I called him Sir Eddie Howe today on Twitter and I think he's just been remarkable. I think we were very excited to get him, Jackie boy, and he's blown my mind of what he's achieved and it's good being a Newcastle fan. As I said, it's brought the joy to me for the past few weeks. It's been great.
It makes the getting up in the middle of the night a bit better, doesn't it, Craig?
Oh, it does. We've had some long, arduous few hours where we've just sat and watched some dribble of shite from the first whistle right to the last. But yeah, this is making it so much better, much more palatable, and it's glorious, isn't it? It really is.
I'm not going to lie. Go on, Bobby.
Sorry, mate. On those stats, you said we'd be 5th in the table.
Yeah,
we didn't see a win for 8 games, didn't we? Yeah. So
he won. Yeah, he won one of his first 9 games.
So that was a feeling out process, obviously, to implement his ideas and stuff. So you think he wouldn't have had that normally. So in a proper season, 5th with a bullet is where we are. So, fantastic.
And if you look at the 2022 form table, we're 2nd, so we're above Spurs, we're above Man City, who've got a couple of games to play on us, and we're just behind Liverpool. So, people will talk about the transfer window. People will say they can say what they want. He's been without Trippier, he's been without Wilson, and he's still managed to do this with a team that was previously couldn't win a game. So, it's an absolutely remarkable achievement what he's done, and when you sit back and actually think about it, it's really quite incredible. And we're so lucky to have him. His personality, he's just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, he didn't Craig's put in the comments there, all of this without a pre-season. And that's true. He didn't have a pre-season. I think it took him a while to get the players' fitness up a little bit. And I think that trip to Saudi, which I know me and you, Bobby, were not very we thought that could have been a mistake, but we beat Leeds, and then that was kind of the little pre-season, and it's just, you can tell, can't you, in the players' fitness since then. It's been
definitely.
It's been some run.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of us could have picked it or predicted this, but it's like dreams come true, isn't it, for us? You know, to have a team to be proud of and wake up and just want to watch them play against any opposition. Like people were telling me, a couple of mates said, "Oh, you've got a hard run coming up now," and I just said, it really doesn't faze me who we play, to be honest. I'm looking forward to playing against the likes of Liverpool and Man City and teams like that, because I want to see what we can do to them. So, yeah, fantastic.
And you can guarantee that they won't be looking forward to playing us, especially Liverpool at St James's. We've already got Jurgen crying about that one, so they will not be relishing coming to St James's Park on it's Saturday lunchtime.
Well, Klopp's had another sook, has he? That's just typical, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not happy about it, but maybe if we do get sort of successful and start challenging for trophies, maybe Eddie Howe will start doing that as well, because maybe it seems to be what they all do, doesn't it? But
yeah, we're not precious like the top six, the corrupt six.
Not yet.
So, yeah, not yet. But I mean, no one talks about the 4 away games in how many days that we had. It is what it is. But I hope Eddie continues on being like he is. No excuses, just gets on with it, and we go from there.
Yeah, and that's why partly as well why I think he's such a good fit for Newcastle. He doesn't try and whip, like, it's a fan base that can get frenzied, and he doesn't try and play on that. I think Rafa, to be fair, did play on that a little bit, but Eddie Howe doesn't play on that. He uses the positivity for what he can, and he appreciates that, but he doesn't try and whip us up because it could backfire in some ways, So it's fantastic what he's doing. I think long may that continue.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the team then from the Norwich game. What we're going to do is just run through the key points from the game, and we're going to talk about pretty much all of the players that played. We've done something new this time, which we've each rated the players. So we'll have a discussion and a debate about that at the end. But let's have a look at the team selection, because this was a bit of a... well, actually, in fairness, Eddie had said before the game he was going to make some changes. So it was kind of to be expected. I think on the podcast that you did with Mark the other day, Craig, Mark was saying that he anticipated the changes as well. So it probably wasn't too much of a surprise to see the changes. Although I think it kind of... Eddie's been sort of saying all along, we're not safe until we're safe. You can guarantee that if we weren't this many points ahead of Burnley, he wouldn't have made these changes. So I know he's going to say we're not safe until we're mathematically safe, and he doesn't want them resting on the laurels. But I think the team selection sort of belied the fact that he thinks that we are safe, and after that result, we basically are. But yeah, Craig, I'll come to you first. What did you think of the team when you saw it at 11 p.m?
I actually thought there'd be more changes, to be honest. I expected Bruno and Joe to sit this one out, and expected Willock, Longstaff, and Shelby in there. I thought those 3 may be the ones that you'd consider be expendable from the starting 11 for what we've got. I expected Lascelles to come in. I mentioned that in a tweet maybe an hour or two before the lineup even went out. Surprised Saint-Maximin started. Again, I thought Jacob Murphy would come in for his place. I thought Almiron would have kept his place in the squad. He hasn't played much football, and he's got bags of energy, loads of stamina, that lad. So him not starting, I thought, was a bit strange and maybe a bit not fair on him, because he had such a cracking game against Palace and he scored that goal.
Comment from Uggy there saying he felt sorry for Almiron not starting. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and the other one as well, I'm surprised Ankyo wasn't given a nod against Kraft. Kraft played a lot of football over the last few weeks or so, probably more than most, or the same amount of minutes. So maybe with a rest for him, with Mankey coming in, was something that was anticipated, but didn't happen. And not that bothered, to be honest. Kraft And again, egg on face, he's been quite solid lately.
Yeah, all 4 of the players who dropped out were on the bench as well, so there wasn't any fitness issues there. Bobby, when you saw this, what were your kind of thoughts? And how did you think this was going to be set up in terms of the formation and the personnel? Because there was a few little debates, wasn't there, about who was going to be playing where?
Yeah, I couldn't work it out because it all pointed to Joelinton up front as a centre forward, and I thought, Eddie can't be daft. No way. No chances Joelinton a centre forward. I thought we got over this. But sure enough, he started there. I think, like Craig, my biggest surprise was Almiron not on the pitch. I thought he deserved to start on the pitch. But other than that, I thought, there'd be the changes. I thought, like Craig, maybe a bit more. The likes of Emil Kraft not playing or having a break, and maybe Bruno even rested, but thankfully Bruno was there because, my God, he's just he was brilliant. But yeah, I didn't work out the formation, to be honest, and I think we were having that debate, and I could see it maybe a 4-2-3-1, I thought, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah. We're kind of scarred, aren't we, by Joelinton up front. I think we've seen him play. This was his 100th Premier League game for Newcastle, and we've seen him play probably 60 or 70 of those as a lone striker, and it didn't work. But he was being coached by he who must not be named at those times as well. Go on.
No, I will say that I still again don't think it worked when he was as a centre forward. It's amazing, as soon as he was moved out onto the left, things started happening. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, so he did start as a centre forward, and not much was happening. And then him and Maxi seemed to kind of switch around a bit. And Maxi has played up front before as well for us. So that's what happened. And this is what we're constantly told about Joelinton when he signed. We were told that when he played for Hoffenheim, he played off the left, and he was set kind of out wide, and that's where he played his best football. So things did improve a little bit when he went out to the left-hand side, and then he scored 2 goals within like 10 minutes. So things definitely improved a lot in that sense. Let's have a little quick look at the Norwich team. All I can really say about this is that they had Tim Krul and Grant Hanley playing, both of who played for Newcastle. Krul was really good for us, to be fair, but by the time he left, he was out of favour. Hanley only played a handful of games in the Championship, but I think any team in the Premier League who have got Grant Hanley as a captain, you're asking for trouble. Norwich tried that last time they got promoted and it didn't work. So quite why they're trying it again now, who knows? Any thoughts on their team?
Grant Hanley was honking in the Championship like he had a turning circle of a semi-trailer, and he's playing in the Premier League as a captain. I made a comment on the chat when this team was announced, and I looked at it and I went, that is one putrid team. That's not a Premier League team. So
I actually had to Google a couple of them. I knew I was coming on the pod, so I was like, I'm gonna have to Google. I googled Lys Malou, who used to play for Nice, and I googled Rashika, and I can't remember anything about him. So yeah, it was.
I think the biggest comment was about Norman and his hair. I think that's. I think Lee mentioned something about his hair, and that got the most comments because we had no idea about any of these blokes. So it proved to be that was a terrible performance by them.
It's not really too much of a surprise that they are where they are, is it? I think it seems to be what Norwich do. They'll get relegated, and then they'll probably keep these players, and they'll do all right, and they'll probably get promoted again. And them and Fulham at the moment are just swapping every season, missing each other, passing each other on the way. So
I think the thing with Norwich is they're trying their absolute best to stay up with the Championship squad in their first year, and then try and build on that. But it's just the wrong philosophy to have. I mean, when we got promoted back to the Premier League a few years ago, and even right now, to be honest, we had a Championship squad with 1 or 2 Premier League quality players in there. There's one Premier League quality player in that squad, and that's Pookie. Yeah. And the service he had last night, this morning, whatever it was atrocious. If he was to leave Norwich, which you'd imagine he would do, he wouldn't want to go down again and come back up. If he goes into a decent mid-table team, Palace, Brighton, something like that, he could be a force to be reckoned with. He's the only one there that you would even consider to be Premier League quality or close to that level. There's nobody there that you'd have in our squad right now, apart from Pukki, I would say.
No, and it's just, you can just see by that team that they're going to struggle, you know. It's only last week they scored 2 goals against Man U, actually, and came back to 2-2 but then lost. But they've got a decent manager in there now, and they just didn't show anything, did they, yesterday? I know we played well after we scored, but they didn't show anything.
Man United aren't a Premier League team anyway.
Exactly.
Not right now, they're not anyway.
All right. So the first half hour of the game, it was a bit there wasn't that much happening. It was a little bit scrappy, and both teams had a couple of chances. How did you, Bobby? How did you kind of think that the start of the game had gone, and were you getting a bit anxious about how Newcastle had started?
I think I was getting very anxious in the first 30 minutes. We were allowing them too much space, and they were breaking and cutting us open as well. And we're just thankful that they had those players playing for them, because it didn't amount to anything. I think there was a chip over the keeper that I would have done in State League here in Victoria. So the first 30 minutes, and it coincided with Joelinton up front. It just seemed like we had no energy, and I think it was because of the wholesale changes and the new players starting, and Longstaff and Kraft were missing simple passes, and they all were, to be honest. But it was just it was very scrappy. And I thought, they're here for the taking, this Norwich team. Surely we've just got to go. And then all of a sudden, I think it was 31-minute mark, and the switch came, and I noticed Joelinton on the left, and it just started opening them up, and we capitalised. And then once I think we got the first, Norwich heads dropped.
I saw Eddie Howe said that he was unhappy as well with how things were going in the first half hour or so. He just said that he was disappointed with the way things were. So you can tell, and you could tell by the fact he made that positional change that he wasn't particularly pleased about things. It was a bit unusual, Craig, to see Newcastle have a bit more possession, though, wasn't it?
It was, especially compared to the last game against Palace, where they dominated possession, or at least it felt like it anyway. It was correct what you were saying. The first half an hour was very scrappy. It reminded me a lot of the Brentford game. Dex, who's in the commentary now, he done the watch along with me on that one. Very, very similar opening 30 minutes. And then after the first goal, which again Joelinton scored in that game, we just took control, and passing improved, the confidence on the ball, and the amount of space that we were getting in behind. I think it was in the first build-up, it was a play between Kraft and Murphy. Then I think it was just a little pass into Saint-Maximin, who then threaded it to Joe, who you rifled it into the back of the net. It was a cracking shot with a lot of swerve on it. We done well once the first goal went in. But before then, it was very open play. We both had chances. Murphy put one wide, which everyone thought he was going to hit the post, but he put it wide. And they had a chance as well where they tried to lob the Bravka, which I think Bobby mentioned just before. So that first goal was always going to be important, and thankfully we got it because we then took control.
I think sometimes in the Premier League there's a tendency to start getting frustrated quite quickly, but it's actually, and I've heard managers say this, it's actually hard sometimes, when you're playing a team that's down there as well. It's not like just because the league table is like it is means that teams have got a right to just go and start playing well and turn up. You still have to work hard. You still have to do the right things. And you still have to do what you've been coached to do and what you've been trained to do. So it was a bit of an ugly kind of start to the game, and there could have been a couple of goals for both teams.
And I think we forget as well that a lot of the boys that started hadn't had much game time, so that's got to factor in as well. So we weren't the Newcastle of the last 3 games previous. It was a new one, and it took that time for them to get going. And once we did, we didn't. after 30 minutes, we knew we were going to win, which was weird.
And let's be fair. When you've got Bruno on the pitch, and we're going to talk about him in more detail later, but when you've got Bruno playing on the pitch and you're playing against Norwich, you're not gonna. You've always got a chance of winning because he's miles better than anyone in the Newcastle team at the moment, and he's been miles better than anyone in any of the opposition teams we've played over the last 4 games.
Yeah.
So when you've got that quality on the pitch, it automatically gives you a good chance of picking points up. So, like you said, there was that switch. The switch was made there, and then Dexter said here in the comments that we looked a bit more dangerous with Maxi up front, similar to the Man U game. I think that's fair to say in this game. And then Joelinton went out to the left, and that goal, Bobby, you're Joelinton's biggest fan. You always have been. Talk us through that finish for that goal, then, the first goal.
It was un-Joelinton like, wasn't it? I love Joe, but his finishing is the one that is least favourite skill. But that was just, I think he had enough, and he's like, this is going top corner, and you're not going to stop it. It was just sensational. I think we were lucky. I think good interchange work by Kraft and Murphy, and then it sort of just scattered across. And I think ASM didn't pass it. I think it just sort of hit his shin and went towards Joelinton, and Joelinton just went, I'm smacking this as hard as I can, and it went in top corner, and he deserves it. Big Joe. I think we had this chat on the chats. It's he's been our player of the season, I think, and just to get his reward, and it's good to see. But cracking finish, wasn't it?
When he's got time to think about it, or when he's running into the box, that's when he seems to fall apart. But when it's more instinctive in that situation. It's a bit like the Spurs goal he scored, the first goal he scored for us, where it's that instinct where the ball comes to him and he just doesn't have to think about it. He just kicks it, and he's good. Right. He's good. It was a really good finish because it was a little bit behind him, and he just hit it with pace and curl, and it just went straight in. It went in off the bar, and it was just a really good instinctive finish. If he'd have actually had time to think about it, he probably would have hit his own face or something, or
shot. That's right.
Yeah, like you did in that other game. So
no, I watched
lovely finish
for Hoffenheim. I watched it for Hoffenheim, and he has scored a lot of goals similar to that. Not as cracking a finish, I don't think, but a lot of the ones where he sort of wheels around and then puts it to the far post. So it was in his itinerary, but yeah, if he did have time to think, it would have probably hit him in the head or something. But good to see. Like, I just love him. I just think he's come on it. He's done wonders for him, and like the game against Norwich showed that he can be adaptable too, which is another string to his bow, and reason to keep him around for a lot longer.
And you shared the stats the other day comparing him with Declan Rice, and the reason that it was comparing these two players is because they're the only ones who've hit this metric in the certain stats. And it's all to do with defensive stats, isn't it? It was like him and Declan Rice have had over 30. I can't remember what it was. Interceptions, and there's a few other things.
Yeah, it's also defensive midfielder.
Stats, defensive midfielder stats, and him and Rice are the only ones who've managed to do that. So,
can I say one thing? Joelinton only was in that position since December.
Yeah.
So I mean that's
match week 14. That's when he started playing against Norwich.
He gave a quality player like Declan Rice 14 weeks a head start, and he's caught him. And he's the only one who can. So, he's been amazing. And, I think we said it every week we're on the pod how good he's been, and we're sort of disbelief for the first few weeks.
Yeah.
And then we got, no, this guy is good. So, all power.
And if we're going to be able to use him in that position as well in some games, it's going to give Eddie Howe more options to pick him on that left wing position in certain games and put somebody else in the midfield who can do something else. Because I think that we were talking about this on the Leicester review. The midfield, we're going to have to do something to get a bit more creativity in there, whether that's getting an attacking midfielder in there or mixing it up in there. Bruno's obviously nailed one of those positions down. So there's 2 more positions. So if Joelinton is going to be able to play on that left wing sometimes when he's not maybe when he's not needed in the defensive midfield position as much, then he's going to be a really useful squad player. And it's no wonder that Eddie Howe loves him, And he name checked him. He was the first player he name checked when he got the job, and I think that was clever man management. But it wasn't groundless, you know. He wasn't just saying it. He'd seen something in 3 days of training, and then it took Kieran Clark moment of the season to get sent off for that little bit of luck for that change to happen.
I heard a rumor that when Eddie was scouting our playing list and everything like that, he spoke to Nagelsmith, who's now at Bayern Munich, about Joelinton and did the itinerary and did all the homework, and the reports back were mind-blowing. And Eddie rewatched tapes of him in Germany and discovered what he had, and I think that's why he name-checked him, because I think he goes, I've got a player here. So, yeah, that in itself was good. You know, Eddie Howe, we expect that. He's the hardest working manager in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's great that it's just been discovered.
I thought there was something dodgy about this transfer as well. Like, and I maintained that up until Christmas, really. Like, I just maintained there's something dodgy, because why did Mike Ashley, of all people, all of a sudden just drop 40 million on somebody when he hadn't spent more than 20 million on someone before? So I thought there was something dodgy about it. But when you see him play like this, you can understand. If it was Steve Nixon, the head chief scout, if it was him that recommended him, you can understand where he saw that potential from, and whether it was that Bruce didn't have anybody else to play up front, or whether he felt like he was a big lad, so he'd be good up front, which is probably more likely with Steve Bruce. You know,
I think that's it.
Whatever's happened, he's certainly showing now why he was worth 40 million, and he's at least worth that now, if not more, as a defensive midfielder.
Absolutely. I think 40 million when he was signed was way over the top. I've watched him a lot, and I thought, 20 million, I thought, it's about, you'd pay that for an up-and-coming star or young guy that had potential. But when it was 40 million, it was like, that's ridiculous. But then to play him as a centre forward under Steve Bruce, the poor bloke, that's why I sort of backed him. I thought he's on a hiding to nothing here. So, but now, I think I got asked a question by Keegan Carr, who's one of our listeners on Twitter, and he said, what would you think he's worth now, Bobby? And I said, all I can say is I definitely wouldn't sell him for 40 million, and they'd need to double that to even get me interested. So, yeah, it's an amazing story, and, just we'll look back at this year, and we'll look back at the end of this season and just still be in disbelief, I think.
What's Declan Rice worth? Because Joelinton's worth that now. He's got the same stats.
He's not English, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
we tend to double the English price, don't we?
All right. So that was Newcastle's first shot on target, that goal, and then 3-4 minutes later, they'd had a second shot on target. Joelinton had a second goal. Craig, talk us through this goal. Eddie Howe was really pleased with this one.
Yeah, it was a counter-attack from what I remember, with a through ball from Bruno and to Murphy. Murphy plays it across the goal. Krull comes off his line. He's to his left. The ball's played across to the right, and it's just literally a side foot in from Joe. It's a well-worked goal. In what matter of seconds, it was over with. Tore Norwich's defence apart, and the beaming smile on Joe's face when that went in was beautiful for everybody to see, because everybody wants the big lad to do well, and he's doing really, really well. And everyone so much wanted him to get his hat-trick after that second one. I know I mentioned it after he scored the first on the WhatsApp chat as the game was going on. Joelinton could be on for a hat-trick here. And, he was close to getting it, because he had that rifle shot again just after half-time, I think it was. But yeah, it was a well-worked goal. Bruno, again, doing what Bruno does best. Murphy with an assist, which is just something that he's actually got in his locker, to be honest, Murphy. He's very, very good at that type of thing. Just shame he can't finish. And yeah, it was the goal that probably made the game over with, I would have thought. I think there's no way back from Norwich once that second bomb went in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think you're right. Did you see Joelinton at the end? There was the club put out a video of him walking into the changing room.
Yeah.
So it's only like 11 or 12 seconds. The Newcastle social media people are doing an amazing job at the moment. We spoke to Serena. We'll have to tell her to big up the media team she works with, because the stuff they're putting out, and they do it at good intervals at the right time as well. So that it was just Joelinton walking into the changing room straight after the game, and he just gets so many cheers, and everybody loves him. You can see why he's so popular. I remember when Sean Longstaff, after Joe had scored against maybe in Brentford in the home game, or he'd scored, and then the interviewer had said something like, "Oh, where did that come from?" And Sean Longstaff defended him. He said, like, "You don't see him in training. He's absolutely brilliant, and he's so popular, and everybody loves him." And I think having Bruno there now for him as well, he's got a fellow countryman, is making a big difference as well. So I think you're right, Craig. It was basically game over at 2-0. It was a bit like the Brentford game, only in this game, Norwich still had 11 men. Brentford had a man sent off in that game, but it was pretty much game over. Although it's Newcastle, obviously, so you can't say that ever. But the halftime stats, we had 6 shots to their 2, and we actually had more possession. We'd had 56% possession to their 44. And actually, we'd had an 83% passing accuracy. I'm going to keep talking about passing accuracy because usually it's around the low 60s mark. The games that we've won at home, it's been around the low 60s mark. But this time it was up at 83%. Obviously, that's helped by the fact that, we're playing against Norwich. I don't think that will be the case when we play Liverpool and Man City in the next few weeks. But it makes a big difference to your general sort of control of the game, and just means that you're not chasing after the ball and probably not using as much energy as well. What do you think, Bobby?
Yeah, there was no energy coming from Norwich. They pressed early when Dubravka or Lascelles had the ball, or Byrne. But as soon as we got that pass into the midfield, there was just gaps everywhere. You had, Longstaff and Bruno and Willock just in acres of space and able to touch it. And I think we would have had close to 90 if it wasn't for Saint-Maximin doing some tricks and turns and losing the ball or whatever it is. But I mean, which is fine. That's what he does. Like he opens the game up as well. So it was helped by the fact that Norwich just had, no idea in the midfield. Allowed guys like Bruno space to do what he does, and you don't give Bruno any space. And unreal. Like, and you're right to talk about that possession stat. I think Eddie wants to see that up. I think he wants to make us a more progressive team, and that'll come with better players and more training. And I think that was a little glimpse, although it was against Norwich, a little glimpse of what he wants to do, I think.
Yeah, I was talking to Dimmy in the last pod as well about how possession stats matter, but they're not the be-all and end-all, It's always the first stat that people look for. But sometimes you don't need the ball to be effective, or sometimes the opposition can have a lot of the ball and it doesn't mean anything because they're not creating chances. And that's happened a lot against us this season because we've managed to contain teams really well. So it's something to keep an eye on, and it's always nice when you feel like you've got that bit more control. I think it's definitely the way that will go as we do get better players in the team. Just before we talk about Bruno's goal, I just agree with Craig's comment here. So the social media team have the freedom to do social media, and they're playing a massive part of connecting fans to the club with the content. And it's absolutely spot on. We've talked about the team photo, and we were lucky enough to have Serena Taylor on here to tell us the story about that. But I think even the fact Serena came on shows that the club is willing is keen to have that content and to have that engagement with fans. And the fans for Newcastle are the biggest asset. I think that's one thing that Staveley and Gudusi certainly seem to recognise that, and the work of the social media team certainly seems to be backing that up at the moment. We win a game and we can't go to bed for hours because we're watching. We need to see what's going on Twitter. We need to wait for the photo. So
I actually tweeted Serena last night, said thanks for the photo, we can now go to bed now.
yeah. Well, it was. I actually, because it was more of a comfortable win, I felt like I could go to bed this time. So I needed to go and get some sleep. So I didn't wait for the photo. But it was 2:22 in the morning for the Leicester game, and I still can go to bed for about an hour after that. I was too excited. So let's talk about Bruno's goal then. I remember saying in our chat at halftime, we need to just if we get an early goal now, that'd be amazing. I didn't actually think we would, but Bobby, I'm gonna let you talk about Bruno now, because we've both had a go at it before. Craig, talk us through the goal first of all, and then just how good is Bruno, and how have we ended up having him for Newcastle at this stage of our club development?
I'll start with the goal because I'll cry once I start talking about Bruno, I think. Just like it was a mistake by Krul, dreadful mistake. I don't know what he was doing passing it there, but Bruno read it well. And the thing that gets lost, I think people I've read are talking about the chip, which was class. The first touch to get away from the defender with the bottom of his boot, it was just, I've slow motioned it a few times because I thought he didn't mean it. I thought something's happened, but he meant every minute of that, and it was just sublime. But this is what we expect with this bloke. He is.
Is it on Pornhub yet?
It's on my Pornhub. I don't need Pornhub when I'm watching Bruno play, to be honest. He is something special. Like, I loved Johan Kabay. I think we all did. And he was different gravy when he was playing for us. But I think Bruno is an all-round much better player than what Johan is. I think we've got a guy that could be playing for any one of the clubs. I include Liverpool and Man City. I know people are saying anyone excluding those two, but I think he can fit in with them and play what they want to do as well. And he's just insane. Like a starting Brazilian international is playing for Newcastle United when we're in a relegation battle. Wake
Jeff Hendrick played a few games earlier this season. That's the biggest thing you can say as a comparison. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
But when you watch Bruno, I mean, I just don't understand it. It still doesn't sit right with me. It's still not doesn't sit right. It still doesn't look real because he's just class. Like everything he does turns to gold, and he controls the game. He's all over the pitch, and he loves it too. He absolutely is fallen in love with our club already, and it's incredible to see. And Joelinton's always going to be my man, but God, I might cheat on him. I'll tell you, like Bruno, he's up there. He's crazy.
Okay, agrees with you. If I walked in on my wife with Big Joe and Bruno, I'd take them both in and make them breakfast in bed the next morning. I think most Newcastle fans agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, totally agreed, mate.
The that touch he did though with the bottom of his foot, I've noticed he's done that a few times. So he rolls it. He seems to have this awareness of what's around him, and that move that he does with the rolling from the bottom of his foot seems to just put the ball in the right place for him. And like all good players, he seems to have extra time on the ball. He doesn't get flustered, and he just seems to have all the time in the world to do what he wants to do. And he always seems to pick the right pass as well.
I think I run a soccer academy or football academy here in Ballarat, and one of the big skills we try to teach the kids at a young age is scanning. So knowing what's around you and knowing how you can impact as soon as you receive the ball. That is his greatest quality. As you said, he just knows what's around him, and he knows he has the time, and that under the foot touch he does is sort of like, you can sort of think it's lairising or whatever, but he's just so confident in knowing where he is and who's around him and how much time he's got, and he's got the skill to pull it off. So he's incredible. I can't, as I said, I'm gonna have a cry that he's actually playing for. To be honest, he's good.
It'll be interesting to see him against better opposition. So he's played against Chelsea, and he didn't do that much in that game, but we were on the defence a lot of the time. And he's absolutely ran the game in his last 4 games. And I think it was WhoScored.com had him as man of the match in all of those games.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how he does against Liverpool and against Man City, and whether he still stands out. Because he does have that all-round ability in his game. So he might be asked to do a slightly different job, but he seems to have the character, and that he's certainly got the ability to be able to perform different roles. And Eddie Howe has referenced that a few times, that he does everything he's asked of him, including all of the defensive work, and he does it all with such a good attitude, a smile on his face. He seems to enjoy playing, and his interviews are fantastic. He's got good English already, I said in the last podcast that I did that I'm getting totally overexcited here, but Man City had David Silva, who grew with them and signed at a similar time of his career. So if we can get anything like that from Bruno, I think we've done very, very well.
He's going to get better. He's going to get better when we get better players around him too. So, you talk about seeing him against Liverpool and all that. Yep, that is, we want to see him do something. But he's always going to be on the defensive then, and I don't think able to express himself as well. But once we get the likes of Paqueta and a few of those coming in, we'll see. I think you'll go to another level, which is insane to think about.
Nigel says that Bruno said Paqueta is as good, if not better than him, but Paqueta scores 10 more goals than him. So yeah, Paqueta's more of an attacking midfielder, isn't he? I don't know how much he would cost, but
I think I think Bruno's adding zeros to his figure, because I think there's jungle drums beating that. They're trying to get each other. They're trying to get him over, and I think Paqueta has been at the stadium a couple of times. Correct me if I'm wrong, and has fallen in love with St. James's Park and the atmosphere, and seeing what Bruno's getting in terms of lauding and the fans worshipping him. Basically, I think they're different players. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. They're both bloody quality, but they work well together. So yeah, if we can get him, that would be insane. It'd cost about 60 million, but I think we can do that.
It's a chicken feed, isn't it, to the owners?
Definitely.
Not that much else happened in the game. We had a few more shots on goal. Norwich, Pukki had a chance that went just wide. Our fans were olaying on 54 minutes. I picked that one up. That was nice. You don't get to do that in the Premier League very often.
No.
But it just summed it up. That atmosphere was good from the away fans, but it just seemed flat in the stadium in general because of the game situation. It was game over after we scored the second goal, even more so after the third goal. And it was just important for us at that point to remain professional and to keep it tight and to not let any silly mistakes go and to not let them back in the game. And I think we did that with pretty much consummate ease. It wasn't difficult at all for us to do that. We got to the end of the game, look at the full-time stats. So yeah, we had 55% possession to their 45. We had 13 shots to their 5, 7 on target to 2, 3 corners to 2. Those stats pretty much sum the game up, don't they, I think, Craig?
Yeah, it was what you'd expect. It was a scrappy start, took control on the half an hour mark and never looked back. And those stats there just about sum up how good of a game it was, to be honest. I'm actually trying to work out why the possession stats don't look that much better, because we dominated that second half. I mean, I wonder how many passes we actually strung along when we were doing those all-ins, because there was a good number of passes there, when we 15, 20, 25 passes, whatever it was. So I don't remember Norwich having long spells of possession, to be honest. So it must have been, as Bobby was saying, when we were a little bit scrappy in the first half, giving the ball away, that type of thing, because that should have been higher from what I remember. But, possession doesn't win your games, goals do, and that was the important thing.
I think as well, we had another couple of gears to click into if we'd have needed to. So, and it is like Dex comment here saying it's surreal that we're having this conversation after that first watch along we did, but it does feel crazy. But we did have more gears, I think, to switch into if we'd have needed to. We could have gone on the attack more. We had Chris Wood on the bench. We could have made that change and gone for more goals if we'd have really wanted to. So I think that was just, we let them have the ball a little bit because they weren't doing anything with it, and we were probably conserving energy for the big game to come up against Liverpool. I
think the biggest thing that happened in the second half, other than Bruno's goal, and was Matt Ritchie getting on the pitch and coming on. I think that blew my mind a bit. Out of all the people who come on, the players who come on the pitch, it was Matt Ritchie, but I thought he did well, and I thought in a more advanced position he looked quite good. So I think we forget he was a quality player. He's slow, but he can still help out here and there. But I think we're definitely focused in the last half of the second half of just getting through and getting out of there and moving on to this patch of games we've got now.
this was a good game to bring Richie in for because he's a big personality in the dressing room and they want to treat him right. And Eddie Howe's got a long history with him at Bournemouth as well. He's still got another year of his contract as well. You know, he might be here next season if he's content to be a squad player. And I've seen some of the footage and he seems like he's doing some coaching kind of stuff as well. So that might be a route he goes down if he wants to have one more season and then go into coaching. He might be able to do that. We will have a look at actually, what we'll do is first we'll do player ratings because this is something, a little bit of feedback that we've had that this might be a good point of conversation. So the three of us have all done our player ratings for this game, and I'll flash them up. I'll come to and we'll have a bit of a chat about them. So I'll come to you first, Craig. This is your player ratings. Talk us through the kind of highlights of this one. You've got Bruno's man of the match there, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so Bruno man of the match, which picks himself. He's been man of the match for the last 4 or 5 games, I think it is. But starting at the top, Dubravka, rating with a 7. He didn't have much to do in the second half, and sometimes that can catch a keeper off guard. But he did make a good stop from a free kick, from what I remember. That looked like it was destined for the top corner. But yeah, he clawed that one away, and he didn't really have much else to do. So he had a solid 7. Target, again, calm, composed on the ball. He was helping Saint-Maximin on the left-hand side when he was given the opportunity. Burn, solid as usual. Lascelles, to be honest, I should have given him an 8 as well because I've seen some stats where he cleared... he had more blocks, more interceptions, more headed chances than any of the other defenders. So probably should have given him a higher one on that. Kraft had a hand in there, the first goal. So again, that was good on there. They didn't really bother attacking Kraft like clubs have done in the past, which was quite surprising because he is probably the weakest of the defenders we have. So I'm very surprised at that one. Joelinton, he gets a 9 just for his performance, albeit it wasn't there the full 90 minutes. Bruno, again, gets a 9, but he gets man of the match, because he got a goal and he completed pretty much the full game. Longstaff was probably the worst performer on the pitch. He missed a glorious opportunity to put with 2-0 up when he skied one over from about 8 yards out, when all he needed to do was just side-footed in the net. Murphy got an assist. Willock was probably our best player in the first half. Saint-Maximin got an assist. He ran his legs off that game. And he is trying to improve his game. He is trying to pass that bit more. We've seen evidence of that. It just didn't come off for him again. But I'm hoping this assist that he's got gives him that confidence to build for the Liverpool game. Amaron, he had about 20, 25 minutes. He was okay, nothing fantastic. Didn't really have much time to make an impact. Same for Richie as well. He had a little bit less time. And Gale, I'm not even going to bother rating because he didn't have any time at all to do anything whatsoever.
It's probably fair to say that we're all going to have Bruno and Joelinton as the best players for Newcastle. They definitely were. And it's interesting that Longstaff, I'll go on to Bobby's and then mine as well, and we might have a little chat about Longstaff because I've got a feeling we might be in agreement on that. Bobby, this is yours. Any differences from Craig?
Not really, I don't think. I think I've put Kraft as a 6 instead of a 7. I thought in that first 30 minutes he was very poor. He was giving the ball away and allowing too much space. But he did well. It's not a knock on him. It's a better than average performance. A better than average Kraft performance, which is fine. Murphy, he did okay. He set up the first goal, but I thought, again, he wasn't working as hard in the first 30 minutes prior to that. I think it sort of lended itself because Norwich were really poor. You couldn't really get a grasp on, except for Bruno and Joelinton scoring 2. It was all much the muchness, I think. It was a good performance, and Dubravka gets a 7. Like, he'd had 2 cracking saves, so you could have rated him higher, but he was on holiday for 85 minutes of the match anyway. So, I think it's not too dissimilar to Craig's, and I think Longstaff, I don't know what's happened to him, to be honest. He's just really poor. Like, his skills have gone backwards. So, the talk about Eddie wanting to keep him and give him a new contract, I don't know where that goes, to be honest. I think we can get better championship players to come in and do a better job as being that reserve centre midfielder. So we'll see how it goes.
I'll flick onto mine. I've played Football Manager all through, not now because I haven't got time, but when I was growing up, I played Championship Manager and Football Manager. So I kind of do my ratings based on that kind of thing. So 7's like a little bit above average. I put Dubravka and all of the defences as 7. They basically didn't have much to do, and what they did do, they did pretty well. Joelinton, I've given an 8, just because I don't think he was as good as Bruno, who's a 9. And Joelinton, the first half an hour, he wasn't that good, and then he was subbed off on 67 minutes. Obviously, he scored 2 goals in that time, but I think for about half the time he was on the pitch, he was excellent when he was out on that left wing position. Bruno was amazing for the whole game.
Yeah.
Longstaff, I gave a 5, and I agree with you about Longstaff a bit. His contract's up at the end of this season. I think we might be able to, because centre midfield all of a sudden not kind of a priority position for us, we might be able to get away with giving him an extra. I'd give him maybe 2 years if he wants to sign that, and knowing that he's going to be back up to begin with, he's going to have to try and play his way in and see how it goes. But he's really had 1, maybe 2 good games for us this season. He was really good against Leeds away, and he was good against Watford away, where he scored a good goal. But he didn't really take his chance in this game, and it's going to be hard for him to get more chances before the end of this season. It's difficult to see if we go where we want to go. It's difficult to see where Longstaff is going to fit into that. He's 24 now, I think, and we've also got Elliot Anderson, who plays in midfield as well, who's out on loan at Bristol Rovers, who's tearing things up. So it might be difficult for Longstaff to have much of a long-term career here as things stand at the moment. I was so excited about him when he first came in, and he had that 6 months under Rafa when he was with Mo Diame in centre midfield, and he scored that goal against Burnley. It was just so good. We were so excited. It was a bit like Michael Carrick because he was tall and he had and then he was linked with Man U, and things have just not gone well for him since then, have they? I'd like to see him with that Eddie Howe pre-season, but I'm not seeing where he's going to get much game time.
No, I think you and Man United were excited in that little spell for Rafa. Under Rafa, they offered us 25 million. I wish we had taken it at the time, but yeah, I think the excuse of his injury. I remember he had an ankle injury, and he was coming back from that, and I think we've been waiting for him to get fit, and maybe it is a pre-season under Eddie. I just don't see it. I don't. I think his passing is terrible. I think he's got good endurance and he gets around the pitch okay. But then when he gets the ball, he sort of panics. And then, I just don't think it depends on expectations and where we're going to go. Like, if we're going to be a team that wants to get into the top 8 next season, I don't think Sean Longstaff's that player. But, we'll see how it goes.
He skied that chance that Craig mentioned earlier. That was a pretty bad miss. And then there was another chance he had in the second half where I think he tried to pass it when he would have been better off shooting, when he was kind of in on the left-hand side of the box. So it's maybe his decision making, but it's like if you've seen what Eddie Howe's done with guys like Joelinton and Kraft, and you think, in fact, what he's done with pretty much everyone he's worked with improved, and you think he could do that with Longstaff, but it's just when he's going to get the game time to be able to put that into action, and he probably isn't. He probably isn't going to get that. So for his sake of his career, maybe he's thinking he's 24. He can go on a free transfer somewhere. He could go to a championship promotion chasing team perhaps and
Norwich.
Do well. Yeah, he could go to Norwich. He could go to West Brom with Steve Bruce, who's apparently still going to be there. But and the other player I did just want to mention was Saint-Maximin as well, because he did work harder in this game. He's out of form, like he is. He's not playing well. It was fantastic support he got with the Wolf Flags the other day, but I didn't do the Crystal Palace review, but that little bit of skill he did, where he just like jumped over the ball. He spent like half an hour jumping over the ball and back. Some fans love that. For me, that's just annoying because he didn't go anywhere with it, and the defender just stood off him and looked at him as if to say, "What are you doing?" And he just passed it backwards. So he's very talented, obviously, and he seems to be a bubbly kind of character. But I don't want to be down on him because he's got us out of a lot of holes this season. But I just worry about whether he's ever going to have the mental side of the game, which is going to elevate him from being a very talented player for a club at our level to actually having a consistent end product and contributing to a team who wants to be going for Europe. What do you think about thoughts on that, Craig or Bobby?
Well, we all know there's a player there, obviously. Like you said, he's got us out of so many holes over the last few seasons. It's really been our probably most consistent player of the last 2.5 seasons. It's just probably since the Everton game, where he had an absolute blinder where he tore them to shreds, he's just been a little bit off the boil. Whether he's not quite 100% fit, whether it's a mentality thing, I don't know. He did definitely step up his game against Norwich. He was tracking back. He actually had a few good defensive displays where target was, for whatever reason, went missing. He was there. He was clearing up. But what we want to see is Maxi in that final third, running at defenders, taking them on one-on-one, maybe do the odd pirouette, the odd little step over, that type of thing, and then squaring it to Chris Wood, smash one in the top corner. That's what Maxi's all about. And will we get that player back? Maybe. Will we get it before the end of the season? I don't think we will. I think he's going to need a summer to reconfigure everything he's done, get his mind reset, come back pre-season strong. Apparently, I think we're going to the States, for a pre-season tournament. And if he goes there, does well, everything gets reset, comes back to the player he was when he first signed, where he was just pure energy and electric. And if we can get that player back, along with Bruno and whoever else we get in the summer transfer window, we're going to be pushing easy top half table, not a problem at all.
Bobby, thoughts on Maxi?
I think I said very early in Eddie Howe's reign that ASM's a watch and see, because Eddie Howe plays a system-based game. Like, everyone's got a role and everyone has to fit into that role for it to work. And ASM is not programmed that way. We saw under Vieira, who's a similar type of coach, systems-based. It didn't work, and they grew frustrated with each other. And I can see it happening because I think Saint-Maximin's trying at the moment to fit in. I think he loves his club and he loves our fan base, and he knows he's got to change the way he's got to play. I mean, under Bruce, it was do what you want, stand where you want to stand, run when you want to run. And if it works out once in 10 times, that's all right. You know, it's different under Eddie Howe. No, you can't stand there. You've got to stand 2 feet to the right. You know, that's where you got to receive the ball. So I can't see it working long term. I don't see him in our future plans. As good a player he is, and as talented as a player he is, and I do appreciate what he's given to this club, because he basically kept us up himself under Bruce. But I just think if we're pushing forward with Eddie Howe and we believe in what Eddie wants to do, we can't be a fan base that gets upset if we let Saint-Maximin go, because he's not going to fit into the way we're going to operate.
I think about the Liverpool front three. We're miles and miles away from Liverpool. They're one of the best teams in the world. But you've got Salah and you've got Mane, and they've got the end product to back up all of this skill. And I think that's what you want, and that's what you need in your attacking third players, is to have the skill and to be that outlet that Maxi is. He gets kicked a lot, and he gets fouled, and he wins his free kicks, and he gets us up the pitch. But you need that end product to be able to play in a top team. I think that's what he's missing consistently, and hopefully we'll be able to pick that up. And he's got the best manager to try and coach him. But I think Eddie's already made a comment about the fact that you can't overcoach some players, and he's obviously referring to Maxi. You don't want to overcoach them and take away what they are good at. So maybe he just needs a team that he's going to fit into.
Sooner or later, we will be upset when we can't beat the likes of, your Arsenals and your Tottenhams, and it's because, Saint-Maximin was out of position or tried to do too much. That's when the time will come where we need to assess. I think where we are right now, I mean, we're nailed on to be relegated this year, so we can't think that we've got players that should be better than what they are. If Saint-Maximin had the finishing of Salah or Jota, he wouldn't be with us. I can guarantee you that. So it's just how we grow and how, like, next year's an interesting case. I think we're going to speak about it in the preseason, how we build this squad and where we go to, because I think next year's more of a foundation year. It's not a let's launch us to the top 8 or top 6. It's let's build the foundations right. So ASM might still be around because that's the best we can get on the right hand side. But I just think long term, I don't think he's going to fit the style of play that Eddie wants. But it's a wait and see. We'll see how it goes.
All right. So we were nailed on for relegation. If you have a look at the league table now, we're 9th. We've got into the top half of the table.
What a nosebleed.
I know, 43 points. I saw the league table from before the Burnley game where we'd drawn 5 and lost 6. Yeah, we were bottom on 5 points at that stage, or something like that. And now we're 9th on 43 points. Leicester have got a couple of games in hand and they're only a point behind. So it's likely that they might jump us again. But Craig, that league table looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I've just removed our logo from the top corner just so you can see the form table. If you look from bottom right up to Man United, there was even further teams. I think all the way up to Spurs who are sitting in 4th. We've got 4 wins out of 5 there. Nobody else on that picture has 12 points from a maximum of 15 from all of those teams there. We are one of the most informed teams, not just in this league, but in Europe. How is that possible? We couldn't score a goal, let alone get 3 points. And we were conceding the average of 3 goals per game at one point as well. I know our goal difference is still shocking, but compared to what it was, it's a stark improvement. And I still can't comprehend the fact that we have 43 points. We were dead and buried when we played Norwich on the 1st of December last year. And we were even lucky to get that point, to be honest, even though we went down to 10 men because I think Wilson got a very dubious penalty, which VAR took about 7 minutes just to try and find some way to overturn it like they normally try to do with us. But that game there was just one of the centre points where I think, yep, this is going to be the long, hard slog of another relegation season. Fast forward to now, I still am in disbelief that we are sat 9th, but top of the table, top half of the table, sorry, even. I'm getting a bit too excited here. And again, just that form there, you just kind of got better form than Man United. Man United got 4 points in the last 15. We've got 12. Next season, and I said this a while ago, that we've got a strong chance of finishing above Man United next season. And it'll be the only time we could finish above Man United and not win the frigging league. It'd just be our luck, that wouldn't it? And the other teams there, Leicester, they're a quality team. Wolves, they're a quality team. West Ham, they're a quality team. But again, our form is just outdoing them at all. And the other one I want to have a little dig at as well is Aston Villa, because we all know that Steven Gerrard came in to the Villa squad the same week that Eddie Howe did. And a lot of people were taking the piss saying, he should have went for Gerrard because Villa won their first 2 games. How wrong they were now. I hope they're all sitting there going, you know what, Eddie's done a cracking job there. Yes, he's had money to spend, but so did Villa. They've spent a shitload of money. They used the Jack Grealish money to buy a ton of people as well. They were one of the big spenders. But credit Eddie, credit to the players, credit to the coaching staff, and credit everybody else that isn't known to the public, because we should not be sat in 9th. We should be sat in 19th. And we should be thinking, I'm looking forward to a game against Charlton Athletic or whoever next season. But we're not. we could be pushing for European football next season. That is a real possibility based on this form called the turn of the year.
Dexter's told you off here. He says you need to set your sights higher than 17th and finish above Man U. Just on the goal difference point, I put this out on Twitter earlier. Newcastle's goal difference, the goals against in 2022, is 0.86 per game, and that's including the Spurs hammering, the 5 goals conceded against Spurs. Without that, it's 0.66. So we've gone from being a team that ships. Remember that first game for Eddie against Brentford that ships goals right, left, and centre, to being really difficult to score goals against. Bobby, I'm just gonna go on.
And that was the criticism of us getting Eddie Howe, because we already had a bad defence, and he was a defensive coach, but he obviously went away, and we know he went to Atletico Madrid, who are the defensive masters of the universe. And he obviously took something from them and learnt and adapted. So I think, full credit to him for turning that shambles of a defence around, because I couldn't see it improving, and now we're just really hard to score against.
And it's the skill of a good coach as well to pick his players. And he came in, and it took him a little while to sort out what his formation and what his team was going to be. And then it took Kieran Clark red card to realise that Joelinton's the best defensive midfielder in the world as well. But it's the skill of a good manager to pick his team and pick his players, and then work out what they need to do to start picking points up and win games, isn't it? And that's what he's done.
Yeah.
So, Bobby, these are the last 4 games left of the season. We've only got 4 games. That means we've only got to get up in the middle of the night 4 more times, or early in the morning 4 more times until August. We'll be able to start catching up on some sleep. So, what do you think? If Dimmy was here, he'd say we'd win all 4 games, but Dimmy's not here. So, what do you think we're going to do with these 4 games? We've got 3 of them are against established elite top 6 clubs. What do you think?
Yeah, established top 6 and all fighting for something. That's the big takeaway. Liverpool and Man City are fighting for a championship, and both have credentials to win it. They're both the best teams in the world at the moment, I think, and it's going to be interesting. I think being, and Arsenal are fighting for top 4, which is a close run race, and Burnley are fighting for their lives, and they're looking actually that it'll come down to that game for them, with Everton. So unlike Dimmy, I don't see too many points in this block of 4, but I couldn't give a shit, to be honest. I don't care if we finish this year 9th or 17th, to be honest. I really don't. This year was about surviving, because the future's in the building. What we can do now is plan for next season by seeing where some players fit, and who can stay on in our squad and who can't. And that's something we didn't have, we didn't think we'd have with 4 games to go, or 6 games to go, really, we knew we were safe. So I couldn't care how many points we get from this. I think we'll take it up to Liverpool at home. I think the atmosphere will be cracking, and I think we'll give it a right good go. But I watch them, and they're just their front 3 is amazing.
They're one of the best teams ever, aren't they? Really,
they score goals out of things you don't even know how they did it, and we'll see how we go. But the best thing is we've got nothing to lose as well in these 3 games coming up, and 2 of them are at home. So let's just see. I mean, I'm looking, as I said previously, I'm looking forward to playing the likes of Liverpool and Man City, and I'm especially looking forward to playing them with, safety assured for us. So yeah, let's see what happens. If you want a points tally, look, 4 points, and that's being positive.
All right. You're going 4 points from this. I think we'll get at least a point from Liverpool or Arsenal, and I think we'll beat Burnley. So yeah, I'll go 4 points as well. Craig?
Yeah, I want to take points off Liverpool. My boss, as we all know, is a massive Liverpool fan. So I want to walk into work the following day and just with a massive grin on my face, knowing we may have cost them the title. That'd be great. 4 points is what I'm going to go for. But we've got a hand in the title race, the Champions League position, and the relegation within these last 4 games. It's insane. We've got a lot of clubs' destinies, albeit it's in their own hands, but also in our hands too. It's fantastic.
And the best thing is for us, it doesn't matter, so the pressure's off.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to see us on the last day, if Burnley need to beat us, to get out of relegation zone or to put Everton in the relegation zone, I'd like to play Longstaff as a
Bobby,
as a centre forward. I'd put,
don't let Sharpie watch this pod.
Is
Christ.
Kieran Clark still in the squad? I'd put him in. Darlow in goals. Let's just hand it to him. Let's let the Scouse Mackems go down. Sorry, Sharpie, I love you, but don't love your team, mate.
This is definitely a theme. I think that Newcastle fans want Everton to go down. I just think that they're absolutely fucked if they go down financially. They're in a really bad way, and I just feel bad for the fans who've done nothing to deserve it, kind of thing. And I really like Sharpie as well. But yeah, when a big team goes down, there's always something exciting about that, and we know that because it's been us twice. So
I just think the arrogance of Everton over the last few years is what is, and the Pickford factor as well. It just all comes to, in their relationship with the Sunderland supporters and them. It's like they've got a brotherhood or something like that. So, it would just make cracking viewing and make my summer or our winter that much sweeter.
Yeah, and you need that because Richmond are not doing very well, are they? So,
yeah, mate, we've run 3 flags.
Let's have I noticed this question at the beginning just before we wrap up then. So this follows on from what I've just been talking about. GT Nut says, do you think a strong end to the season will help attract players in the transfer window? Bobby?
I think we've already done it. I think we've attracted them by staying up in the fashion we did. I don't think the next 4 games matters too much. If we give a good account of ourselves against Liverpool and Man City and Arsenal, then maybe it'll get that extra little thought of that player that might have considered us or whatever. But I think the players that were looking at us, like your Botmans and your Nunes, Paqueta, those caliber type players, I think if they're not impressed by what's going on, there's no atmosphere like St. James's Park at the moment. The players have got smiles on their face. They're celebrating every win. It's already been done to me. I think that strong into the season has already happened, and I think we're going to have some very talented players walk through the door next summer.
If you can sign Trippier and Bruno when you're in the relegation zone, it makes you excited for what we might be able to do when we're an established Premier League club. But yeah. I'll just be forever grateful to Kieran Trippier for signing for Newcastle when he did, because I don't know whether if he wasn't there, whether Bruno, maybe we would have, but I think that signing was a real statement from a world-class player that Newcastle are a club worth joining. And that is going to be, he was the first signing of the regime, and I think I'm just going to be very grateful for that. For as long as he's with Newcastle.
I read somewhere that the character of the player is something we need to be really conscious of not doing in Everton. I think if we just go out and the likes of Nunes and Botman are like, oh no, I'll only come to you if I want £100,000 more a week than what the club after me, or like Nunes has got Man United after him. So if they start bargaining, then you just walk away, and I'd be happy with that. Because you've got the likes of Bruno and Trippier, who are world-class players, going, I'm here to fight because I believe in this club and I believe in this city and I believe in the ownership. So I don't care who the players are, as long as they've got the character to come in and make us better.
Yeah, and Eddie's big on the character. And that's why I think when people say about the transfer window, all the money spent, he chose how to spend the money. He chose the characters. And he knew that they would all add something. Chris Wood as well would all add something to the dressing room, and were the right kind of people we needed at that time. So you only have to look at Everton. You only have to look at Everton with Van der Beek and Dele Alli to see how it might go. Yeah, how things might go if you don't get the right characters in.
Well, that's the character, isn't it? Van der Beek didn't want a relegation scrap, and he chose not to come. It's funny like that, but. It's interesting. Like Target, we're talking now about a player that I love. I think he's a 7 or 8 out of 10 every week. He gives us all, and he's just fitted in, and he obviously loves the place. But this talk, we're not too sure if we're going to sign him, and that's crazy. for me, I don't think there's another left back we can get that's going to be fit into the squad we've got as well as him.
It looks
Not
like
for the
we've got
value he's at as well. 15 million
value.
apparently he's rated. I think that's a bit of a bargain, to be honest.
It looks like we've got Steve Nixon in the chat anyway, because he says add Botman to our defence along with Target permanent, then Paqueta and Bellingham. That would be
Bellingham.
And Ekitike and Lingard in front line. And I can see Europe in a domestic cup.
I think the one
that's ambitious, isn't it?
I think the one problem that we have, I think you spoke about it earlier, Jackie, is that we're a very emotive fan base. It's good and there's some bad. And I think the expectation is what Eddie and the ownership will have to curb this thing. And I think he's already started with that talk of, I don't think it's going to be revolutionise, the squad. It's going to be a building. I expect maybe 4 top quality players and then maybe some youth to come in. And for some fans, that won't be good enough. But, I think, we've just got to curb our expectations. Like Bellingham would be great, but I don't think he's coming to a club that isn't a Champions League club, So, we've just got to get a couple more Brunos and Burns and Targets, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I've got an article drafted already about the transfer window. I've been waiting until we're a little bit more mathematically safe, just in case. But yeah, essentially it is what you've just said. I think Eddie is already trying to temper expectations a little bit, and that's and the owners have as well, because they've been saying we're not going to get ripped off by anybody, and that is evidenced by the fact that they won't even pay Brighton a bit extra for Dan Ashworth to get him sooner, and that's good. It's the way we need to go. So I think we do need to have some sort of expectations tempered a little bit for next season for the transfer window. And it's why when you see links to likes of Neymar, it's just pie in the sky. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
I mean, when Man United signed Pogba for, what was it, 100 million or whatever it was, and they thought they were going to win the league, and it's just shown you spend $100 million and you get a player that gets booed at every week now. And it's not the amount of money you spend, it's how you spend the money. Just hope that our fans realise it, and not get on the back and put pressure on the club to spend on players that we don't want at this point in our life cycle of where we want to get to.
Yeah. All right. I think any final thoughts there, Craig or Bobby, before we wrap up?
Just touched on Uggie's question here, or statement. The owners will not accept anything lower than 8th next season, in his opinion. I think they will, because we're going to target the cup games, I think. They're going to be our key focus, because breaking into the top 8, top 6, top 4, as we know, is crazy, crazy difficult. If we can finish mid-table and get to a semi-final or a cup final or anything like that, to me, that's success. That's something we've never had for 14, 15 years or so. And again, those are building blocks. Those are the foundations we can build on. It will be evolution rather than revolution, as Bobby just mentioned just before. And I think, again, the Cups is going to be where we're going to have to beat our strongest. Premier League, we're not going to have the strength and depth, I don't think, because of financial fair play restrictions. That's going to kick in big time for us. And also the Premier League are trying to hold back our sponsorship deals like there's no tomorrow. So we've got to try and get commercial revenue from other sources. And if that is by getting into Europe through the Cups, then I think that's what we'll target for.
Yeah, and I think next season in general is going to be about getting the club structures in place. So now that we know that we're not going to get relegated this season, and that we're not going to get relegated next season unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong, we've got time now to try and get the club structures in place, get the right people into the right positions.
Yeah,
and that's what next season is going to be like. Bobby said about building the foundations, and for me, that's almost as exciting as going out and signing, superstars, because that's what that's the long-term future of the club. And I think we've got a manager in place who is going to be, he's proven when he was with Bournemouth on a much lower scale, but when they were in League Two, and he brought them all the way through the division. So he knows how to build a club in that sense. And he's proven as well that he's adaptable and that he's flexible, and he's able to
change what he does. So I think the future is very, very good. Go on, Bobby.
I think we're owned by Saudi Arabia, PIF, and there's a lot of people that said our owners won't accept, or they'll be, like there's some dictatorial ownership. Our chairman was kicking the ball around the pitch with the other owners, and the biggest smile on his face, doing, flips and stuff like that. I don't think these people are as authoritarian as the media emphasise them to be. I think they're here for the long haul. They want to build this club to be the best, but I don't think they're going to be sacking people or be ruthless. I think they're going to be measured, and I think we're seeing this very strategically now. And I don't think they won't accept eighth. And it's not to pick on Uggie's statement. It's just I've seen it from opposition fans going, "Oh, wait till they don't make eighth next year. They're going to get all this." I don't buy into that. I think they're going to be here for the long haul, and there's a lot. This club has been neglected for so long.
Yeah,
there's so much to do. There's a training ground, which is the pits. There's an academy, which is the pits. There's growing the bond with this region where we're third out of 2 shit clubs have got better sources to get the best Northeast kids. These are the things that excites me.
There's a dead pigeon on the roof to get rid of.
Yeah, there's a stadium to clean. There's bigger TVs to put in the foyers, because there is so much to do. So let's just, I would take a non-relegation threatened year next year and a nice little cup run where we try to go out and win the games. That for me would be great.
I think that as well, Newcastle United is an important investment for them because of the profile, but it's absolutely minuscule in the grand scheme of what PIF actually invests in, It's chicken feed, it's nothing. So it's sports washing. It is, I think that's what it is. Let's be honest about it. But it's a high profile investment for them, but I think they're going to get football people. They're going to get people that they trust in the key positions, and then they're going to just let them get on with it. It's like anything business. You just want it to. I've got a business, but you want it to kind of get to a point where it looks after itself. And you don't have to worry too much about it, I guess. So if you've got the best people in place to do that, then that's probably the way it's going to go.
They've already done it. Dan Ashworth, you read up on his history. He builds infrastructure. He doesn't build from buying razzmatazz players from the top end. He doesn't build from the top. He builds from the bottom. He did it with England. He built the under-12s and the 13s and the 14s and the 15s. And now England is seeing the fruits of that labour. And it's just a bit the same with us. And he'll build the foundations first, and then we'll see us grow. And, yeah, that's the exciting thing for me. It's not this Man City spend £1 billion and then off we go. It's the city's going to be transformed. And that, for me, being in that city, that's what gives me the greatest thrill as well.
Right. I think what we'll do is we'll leave it there then. This has gone on for an hour and 25 minutes, which is good. We've talked about Norwich. We've talked about all sorts of other things, which is what happens with the live ones, which is what we want. Bruno. It's good engagement. We've talked about Bruno for about an hour, which we did on the Leicester review as well. But go on, Craig.
Let me just leave you with this as well, right? If Bruno is the beginning, what we're going to have in 10 years' time? If Bruno is that good now, I mean,
Craig, I've got to go to bed now. You're going to get me excited. Come on.
I'm propping the table up with a fifth leg here, Honestly, I am so excited for what the future holds for our little club, for that wee club in the Northeast. And, it's something that we need. The club is the city, and the city is the club. When one's bouncing, so is the other. And everybody is afraid of what we are going to become. There were 19 clubs in that league that wanted us to get relegated this season, and now they are absolutely shitting themselves for what we are going to become. And we are going to become that a little bit quicker because we've got Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe is our saviour right now. So, bow down, Eddie.
I can't think of a better place to leave it, Craig. Thanks very much. We will. So what's happening? We've got the Liverpool preview coming up. So that's with Daniel Garb, who's a
massive name.
He's a big name in Australia. He's a Liverpool fan. He's an AFL commentator. He does a few other media things.
So
a bit like
that's
Adam Peacock does everything.
yeah. So that's going to be with Mark and Dimmy on Wednesday. And then we'll be back for the Liverpool review after that. We've also got a meet-up actually in Brisbane for the Liverpool game because it's a perfect 9:30 p.m. kickoff time on a Saturday night. We don't get them very often. So we'll be doing that at the Pig and Whistle in Brisbane. And I think there's meet-ups in Sydney and Melbourne as well. Craig's got the Cairns Newcastle United Supporters Club meeting in his house. It's just him and his dog.
Same with me and
All
Ballarat.
Thanks very much, everyone, for watching and for commenting. We really love this engagement. Please subscribe. We're on a subscription run. We need to get more subscribers. And download the audio from wherever you get your audio, and like us on YouTube, and we're also on Facebook. Thanks very much, boys. I will speak to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers.